Have you noticed how trendy left-wing London progressives will say things like this?
Ideas like the Great Replacement, which is the perfect marriage really between Islamophobic racism, anti-Semitism and white nationalism, because the theory goes that there is a sort of Zionist conspiracy to breed out white people.
And then say things like this.
The white British population has decreased by 600,000, while the minority population has increased by 1.2 million. So, yes lads, we're winning.
Now, I'm not saying the mass immigration into Europe is a Zionist plot, but what I am saying is that if you point it out and say if these numbers continue, European nations are going to be minorities in their own countries in a few decades, they'll call you a crazed conspiracy theorist maniac. But at the same time, they'll celebrate that very same replacement as something good if it's from a left-wing perspective. So what are the indigenous Brits supposed to do then? Just stay quiet while our country is increasingly taken over by a mass of strangers who quite clearly very often don't like us either.
Our hatred for the non-Muslims doesn't stop us from being unjust to them. My argument would be it also doesn't stop us from coexisting with them.
Imagine if it was a couple of British right-wingers having this conversation. It would be major political news, celebrities crying and the rest of it. Yet when it's two Muslims, the response is either just do absolutely nothing and push it down, and if it does break out to the mainstream, blame ourselves for being not inclusive and kind enough to them. Now, I don't doubt there are some wacky theories on the right, but there are some much more dangerous and pertinent theories on the left that have gone mainstream in recent years. That's the post-structuralist, post-colonialist, neo-Marxist theories coming out of the universities and into the culture known as wokeism. That ideology is creating a generation of angry migrants as well as our own lost young people who are now featuring on mainstream news channels giving opinions such as this.
So I'm African, I'm from Eritrea. Britain tore my country apart, it tore my continent apart, it tore the rest of the world up for quite a long time.
But it enabled your family to come here and seek refuge, presumably?
But we came here because of what? Because of the condition that Britain left my country in. That's why I'm here.
Now, I know that colonialism was a messy and complex business, but the idea that Eritrea would be some booming Wakanda if the Brits didn't show up, in fact, if Africa would be some booming Wakanda if the Europeans never went there, it's just pure fantasy stemming from wokeism.
So you feel uncomfortable with your Britishness, whether you like your British passport?
There's a British passport, yeah, I feel completely uncomfortable with it, and I feel ashamed and it hurts. And when someone gives me a form and says, what do you want to put on it, black African or black British, and if they prompt black British, I feel really, really upset. Like, it really hurts.
Well, if it hurts you so much, you could always leave and go somewhere that you don't have a burning hatred for.
It really hurts.
Funny that they never do that, given there are many options these days, including Asia, the Middle East, South America, Africa, and so on.
This country owes the rest of the world anything it wants.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. We don't just owe the countries we colonized infinite wealth. We owe the rest of the world that, according to this guy. This fella, and tens of millions like him already in Europe, have been fed a very aggressive and vicious one-sided ideology. They are completely unaware that the British also brought trade, infrastructure, the rule of law, the basis for parliamentary democracy, common law, technology, medicine, universities, philosophies, transport, and much, much more to these regions that were severely uncivilized. So we have millions pouring through the border each year, young people and migrants getting increasingly aggressive due to this woke ideology they've all bought into. And on top of that, things happening that don't even bear reporting on the news, such as this attack recently in Clerkenwell. A man was found with a few knives and a Koran after attempting to stab a couple of people. I think what's happened to me and many other English people is well symbolised in the cartoon on your screen. I, like many others, was just an average Brit, a centrist, and still am pretty much. But I don't hate myself for being British. I think there are things to be proud of. But when you constantly get lectured that you're terrible, that Britain's responsible for everything bad in the world, that you're just imagining mass immigration and multiculturalism not being a utopian perfect thing, you're some monster, you start to find that you defend your home country more and more, not because you're some psychopath, simply because you're fed up of being pushed around and lied about. Seems to me then that the best way to deal with this madness is to be calm, reasonable and logical, rely on the facts and the logic of which there is much, and not get lost in conspiracy theories like the leftists accuse us of, but very often are engaging in themselves. I know it's an ambitious vision, but I personally believe these people can't be reasoned with anymore. They're just too full of ideology and anger. Henceforth, we should stay calm, build a vision for a new future, which can be very exciting, and leave these people to the madness that they've foisted. These are just my thoughts, however. Do let me know what you think down below, and do consider subscribing to the channel.